Hi there, welcome to just another session with Dr. Jim Sharps, President of IIOM, International Institute of Original Medicine. As you know, if you're a regular watcher to these videos, we cover a range of topics, really kind of tapping into Dr. Jim's extensive knowledge in the field of original medicine, and really trying to bring out those topics and bring out the original perspective in a really engaging, simple, and easy to understand way. So we're continuing our kind of series, you could say, on the philosophy of original medicine, really just putting out the broad tenets of original medicine. If you are new, you've never come across what's original medicine, just so you have a kind of a series where you can understand the basic principles and hopefully have something to think about and a route if you do want to implement original medicine in your own life. So, Dr. Jim, before we go into it, for any new viewers we've collected as part of this series, perhaps if you could just very, very briefly just go over your background and how very quickly, your story and your journey, how you kind of came across original medicine and obviously developed into a very experienced practitioner yourself.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for asking. But basically, I was blessed with poor health. I had a lot of health issues growing up. Had many different respiratory issues. I would get colds and flu just about every year. Almost died a couple of times. But as I grew up, things kind of seemed to get better. But by the time I got into my 20s, after college and being in a sedentary job, not as active, a lot of those health issues started to flare up again: allergies, heart palpitations, heart murmur, etc. And I just happened to find out about this alternative health area. And as I learned it, I basically was able to solve all of my health issues. And when in my mid-40s, when most people are having a midlife crisis, they want to leave their wife or do some other kind of crazy thing, jump out of a plane. I wanted to become a health practitioner. So I was anticipating leaving my six-figure job at a Fortune 500 company where I was in executive management. So obviously I was scared to death, but I took my little severance package, and over the next, they told me it'd take me 2 years to get my first doctorate. I got my first doctorate in 9 months. I got all 3 of them and my PhD in 2 years. So you can see I was a little bit motivated. I couldn't stay out of work too long. And so I basically made that transition. And that was back in the early 90s. And so I've been doing this now for 30 years. I went from a practitioner to giving seminars to running the school, the International Institute of Original Medicine, starting in 2003, made it an accredited school in 2008. And here we are today, where we have the most integrated, most comprehensive naturopathic, biblically based online school in the world, where we provide both certificate and degree offerings, certificates in nutrition, in herbology, in medical missionary work. We also provide a bachelor's, master's, doctorate, and just recently an accredited PhD program. So it's a very rich program, and that's basically the sum and substance of where I started and where I am today. Where we are now, the latest exciting project is adding RBTI, Ream's biological theory of ionization. So in addition to the most powerful system known to man for preventing and reversing all chronic degenerative diseases, which is what we call original medicine, the natural laws of health, we have this powerful home-based tool where you can analyze your biological function and determine what your requirements, your capacities are. So it's a perfect marriage of the most powerful health system with a very practical, powerful scientific test that you can run in your own home. So we're very excited about that combination. And that is basically, I hope that's the 2-3 minute version of my background in natural health.
Yeah, very clear. Thank you for that, Dr. Jim. And hopefully if you're coming across this video for the first time, you're interested, check out our channel. There are more videos on Dr. Jim, different presentations, different series and themes and topics that we cover. For those that are kind of continuing our philosophy of original medicine series, you'll recall that we gave a basic overview, the principles, the philosophy of original medicine at a very broad level. But we wanted to zoom in this episode today and really look at, if you know Dr. Jim, you've explored the channel, you'll know he has a very humorous way of bringing out original medicine. So we thought a good second step in the series would be to look at original medicine at a more practical level from the perspective, shall we say, Dr. Jimisms. You'll know more as we go through the video. So we'll tackle a couple of these, maybe 3 or 4 of these today, and continue that in our next video. But hopefully these Jimisms, Dr. Jimisms, will kind of give you an insight into the perspective at a more practical level of how original medicine manifests itself in daily lives and how that differs from other systems of medicine. So, Dr. Jim, I'll kind of reel off the quote of some of your Jimisms, Dr. Jimisms, and then you can maybe expand on what you mean. So, the first one I wanted to go over is probably the one that you're most well known for, where you say that genetics loads the gun and lifestyle pulls the trigger. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so what I mean is we all have a genetic past, but it really doesn't make sense to talk about all these things being genetically caused. Yes, we have a DNA, et cetera, but a lot of times when I'm working with my clients, they talk about genetics, and I say, well, tell me about your grandmother. Oh, she lived in 97. And I said, well, where is all this genetics coming from? It's from aunts, it's from their parents. So yes, we do have genetics. And that's why I say, genetics loads the gun, but we have choices that we can make, and with the right dietary and lifestyle factors, you can basically quote reverse your genetics. Stop the genetic fall. If it made sense, if you go back 40, 50, 60 generations, we should be extinct as a civilization if there was any kind of veracity in that. So, there's a lot of things, what I call specious arguments, seemingly logical and rational, but when you pull away the kimono, you see the Wizard of Oz is there just pulling a lot of levers and he has no clothes on. So that's what I mean by, yes, you have to honor your genetics. It does talk about your requirements, your capacities, but you're not completely at the mercy of it. You have to honor it, and then you just don't do those things that you have genetic predispositions to having problems with. I hope that helps.
Yeah, and maybe if you could give us a practical example of maybe a very common thing that you hear in your experience, and how you can kind of couch that Jimism, if I can coin that phrase, how that sits in practical life through a practical example, if you can.
Yeah, so I guess the best example is, I've had a practice now for 30 years. And so, these Jimisms, as you call them, came about from seeing, quote, miracles. I basically was like everybody else. I went to the same schools they went to, and I was kind of saying, okay, this is the best way to proceed. And so I was just basically saying, well, here's the best thing to do to basically stop the damage. And I was seeing, quote, all these miracles. People that supposedly, supposed to be having this for the rest of their life, and sometimes in a matter of weeks. Some people, for 11 years on all kinds of digestive pills and things, literally resolved in 2 weeks with changes in the diet and lifestyle. The same thing with cancer. You see all the fear and the anxiety, et cetera. But if you treat people with respect and dignity, and you encourage them, and you put them in the proper frame of mind, as well as in the most powerful system, you see all of these improvements. So that's where that has come from. I listened to all of these things, and then the practical application of these original laws of health were showing that a lot of the things that we were led to believe and taught in school, quite frankly, if you're doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results, that's what people were doing. But if you get into this righteous system instead of this the wrongest system, then you will experience what I like to coin as outrageous health and vitality.
No, that's great. And thank you for that practical example. So that's Jimism one. So we'll move on to another one. You mentioned cancer previously, and one of the things that you've said many times is often and many people, if you haven't seen our upcoming podcast with Joanna Barrett, do look out for that, talking about her cancer journey, that a lot of the treatment for cancer is really hard. You're losing your hair, being wheeled around to get rid of the cancer through the different therapies. What do you have to say on that? How does that Jimism of getting rid of the cancer and your hair and potentially your mobility, how does that come out?
Yeah, losing your hair and not being able to hold down your food and being wheeled all around the place is not a really great witness to the power of improving cancer health outcomes. And I don't get it. People, they're sick, they can't move around. And this is supposed to be improved health and vitality. There are much better, less harmful ways of taking care of, reversing, stopping the bleeding, stopping the cancer growth, and reversing it, where you don't have to go through all of that. And so essentially, it's not a good witness. The current approach of chemo, radiation, and surgery, it does not give a good witness to a positive way of taking care of cancer. And as I tell most people, the biggest issue with cancer is the fear and anxiety, and all of that makes you do some irrational things. That, yes, does it help a few people? Yes. But in the broad scheme of things, 15 to 20% success rate isn't a very powerful argument for that system, for that health approach to taking care of your cancer. So that's what I meant. It's what I call the hand grenade approach to health, as opposed to the more simple diet and lifestyle. So yes, you can look at the causes and contributing factors and take care of that. Or you can take a hand grenade and throw at it and hopefully get rid of the thing that you threw the hand grenade at. But there's all this collateral damage, and the collateral damage is the losing of hair, upchecking your food, being wheeled around, etc. And so that's what I'm referring to there. And it's not that the medical folks are mean spirited. That's what they're taught in school. And there's arguably a lot more money in that approach, and you'll have a lot more customers than in my approach, where if they practice the kind of things I'm teaching that I talk about, the medical profession will be out of business overnight. Over not 100%, but over 90%, which is pretty good. Over the 90% of the cancers would just be non-existent.
Yeah. No, that's clear. Thanks for that, Dr. Jim. So we'll move on to perhaps the last Jimism we'll cover, maybe one or two more. You often talk about there's a man and a gorilla in a conversation. And the gorilla says to the man, Tommy, where do you get your protein from? So there's a lot of talk about vegan diet, vegetarian diet, meat-based diet. I know there's a lot of some very prominent internet personalities that really talked about the proponents of a meat-only diet. So where do you square that with a lot of a young generation or a gym generation that really is like, hey, I need my protein, I need to go through this? What do you have to say? Where does that Jimism, the man and the gorilla, where does that come in?
Yes, actually, that's in my where do you get your protein presentation, and I go through all of the different theories about, first of all, how much protein do you need and where's the best sources of it, et cetera. And at the end of it, I have this picture of this big gorilla, this muscle-bound guy in the gym. Looks a lot like me, you know. You can't tell I got this special fiber clothing on. It gives me the illusion of leanness, but this big muscular guy, big muscles all over the place. And this gorilla holding this leaf. And he's saying to this muscle-bound guy, take this leaf out of my hand and I'll show you where I get my protein from. The point being that all the strongest and longest living animals on this planet are all vegetarians. All the meat that we eat only vegetarians. So all this protein that we're talking about, we're getting it from vegetarian-based animals. We don't eat carnivores. And basically, when you're eating animals, and you can get some nutrient value out of it, but when you eat, when you're getting your protein from an animal-based source, you're getting that protein secondhand, because the protein that reflects that beef, the animal, came from vegetables, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and grains. And so the point I'm making is you just eliminate the middleman, go straight to the source. And it's a much more efficient way. And it's the way that the human body was designed for protein. And the other example that I talk about is I talk about this bodybuilder, Andreas Colling, who was Mr. Universe and Mr. Europe for 3 years in a row. He was 100% fruitarian. That's all he ate. And so I like to make these contrasts to show the weakness of a lot of the arguments that are out there. So I'm not advocating you live on 100% fruit, but you can. And there's animals that do that. And that's the highest form of animal. And so I just try to put a little bit of common sense, a little bit of wit, a little bit of logic and common sense into this whole field, and not get bogged down with a whole lot of chemistry, biology, and so-called science. And most people, when you lay it out that way, they stop and think and say, you know what? That makes sense. And hopefully it will encourage those who don't even like to eat meat, but it kind of been beaten into it, et cetera, to follow their natural instincts. And you know, this means no disrespect for people who want to eat meat. That's fine. And if you have the capacity to handle it, that's fine also. But to come out with something about making that the end all be all and the best approach, then we're talking about a little bit of a different situation.
Wonderful. Dr. Jim, we'll pause there because I think the image of the man and the gorilla, I think is a wonderful place to pause. The special fibers is a wonderful place to pause. So we're just trying to give a very introductory journey into the philosophy of original medicine. There's so much more that we could cover. But in this series, we just want to give something in a very accessible way, very easy to understand. I think going through the Jimisms is a great way to do that. So I hope you've kind of appreciated and enjoyed the content, the conversation, the humor that Dr. Jim always brings to things. We'll continue this series, some more Jimisms in our next recording, and we'll continue this journey through the philosophy of original medicine, going through some more Jimisms, and then really looking at the original medicine perspective on what are the underlying causes of disease and what can we do about them. So that's really the philosophy of original medicine. Hope you've enjoyed the video. If you are interested in furthering your own individual learning journey with original medicine, do check out our website, IIOMonline.org. We'll make sure all the links are in the video description. And do check us out. Do like the channel. Do subscribe if you are interested in the content we share here. And please do feel free to join our free online community. We have weekly calls, multiple weekly calls, a really vibrant, positive community that's really supportive. So if you are looking to be a part of an online community that is interested in natural and original medicine, do check us out. We'll make sure all the links are in the video description. So we hope you've enjoyed today and hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.
Bye for now. God bless.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, clicking the bell icon so you're notified whenever we upload.